Everybody's talking about n8n, a free and almost open source platform for building AI workflows and AI automations using a graphical user interface. This video today will be a crash course and introduction into n8n. We're going to learn how to use it by building and implementing multiple workflows. We're going to integrate Google Sheets, Google Calendar, Telegram. We're going to use AI agents and even Python code. This is an interesting platform for programmers, but also for non-tech people. If you like this video, let me know by hitting a like button and subscribing. But now, let us get right into it. Alright, so we're going to learn how to use n8n in this video today. Let's address the elephant in the room right away. I claimed that it's almost open source. What does that mean? It basically means the source code is available. It is source available, that's the correct term, but the license is quite restrictive. You're not allowed to modify or host it for someone else. You're not allowed to build a competing product. However, you can take the source code, you can deploy it on your own server for your company, you can modify it. You're just not allowed to do it for someone else. So you can do all of this for your company's internal needs, but you're not allowed to build a competing product, which makes it not open source, but source available. So running n8n locally is extremely simple. All you need is you have to have node and npm installed, and then you can just open up a terminal and say npx n8n. This is going to run n8n on your own system. It's going to install it. It's going to download everything that's needed, and then it's going to run the software on port 5678. Now, the first time you run this, you're going to see a registration form. There you have to create an account for n8n. However, all of this is happening locally in a SQLite database, I think. So you're not really signing up for an actual service. In my case here, I have to sign in because I already have the account here, and I'm just going to provide my credentials. By doing that, I can log into n8n. In this case here, I already have some workflows because I prepared them for the video. But in your case, you probably have nothing here, and you can just start by creating a workflow. Now, before we start working on an actual example, let me briefly show you where you can find what. The most important thing here is the right side, this plus symbol, or you can also trigger it here. You always start with a trigger. So the idea of n8n is you have workflows. These workflows have to start in some way. You can start them manually by just clicking. You can start them by form submission, by chatting, or by events from different apps. For example, here on app event, I can say from all these services, I want to wait for certain events. And once they happen, I want to trigger the workflow. For example, a certain row could be inserted into Google Sheets. I have here on row added, on row updated, trigger this workflow. Or I can also say on PayPal events. So when something happens there, I want to react to it. For the sake of simplicity, we can start with a simple trigger manually. Now, this will trigger the workflow. Clicking on this executes the workflow. And as you can see, there's a connection here. So to this trigger, I can add now certain things. So for example, I can add some AI action. I can add an action in an app. And here again, we have many different integrations. For example, I can say, go to Google Sheets when I click and append a new row in a sheet. Now, for each individual node, you have different things that you need to set up. Maybe a credential to connect to Google Sheets, maybe some other API key. And then you also need to say, okay, what exactly happens? Which document, which sheet, which row? What do you want to do? But basically, every node is structured in the way that you get some input and produce some output. So you get the trigger without any data, so you don't really have an input here. Then you do something, then you return something, then you do something else. You also have stuff to control the flow. So you have if else, you have filters, you have transforms. So you can say if something is the case, go here. If something is not the case, go here. And then you can go into AI and you can say, I want to have OpenAI and I want to message a model with the data that I got from the previous node. Now output that data in a summarized way. Take that again and feed it into Python code, for example. So I can go to core, I can say code, I can say Python, and now take the input, access it by using underscore input, do some stuff here, output something else. So all of n8n is based on this idea of starting somewhere with a trigger. Maybe the trigger already produces some data. If it's not a click, but a chat message, for example, we can take this message as input already. And then every node takes this input, does something, outputs something else, and at some point the workflow ends. But before we create a fancy workflow with a lot of different nodes, let's start with a simple one. We're going to start with a trigger, which is a form submission. So we're going to click here on form submission. And here now the idea is to specify what our form is going to look like. So I'm going to say here, this is going to be a registration form, and we're going to say register for beta. Then what we can do is we can add form elements. So these are the input fields. I'm going to say here, add form element, name. This is going to be text. I'm going to say placeholder your name, and this is a required field. Then I'm going to add another one, which I'm going to call email. The element type is going to be email. It's going to be your email as a placeholder, and that's also going to be a required field. Finally, I'm also going to ask for the reason. Why do you join? It's going to be a text. It's going to be your reason for joining, and it's not going to be a required field. So once we have all of this, I can execute this step. What this is going to do here is it's going to listen for a form submission. I can close this now, and you didn't see this because I have a tiling window manager in full screen, but here it opened up a form. So now I can say something like my name is Florian, my email is whatever at mail.com, and my reason is because I want to. And now when I submit this, this is triggering this node. So we can take a look at this node and we can see that it pulled in a test form submission. And now we have this output, this JSON output that is passed to the next node. In this case, name Florian, email whatever at mail.com, reason because I want to, and then some information here about the time and the form. So the next step is take this and do whatever you want. So I can take this and do some Python code, for example. Just let me show you so you can see what this would look like. We're going to use this later on. In this case now I have these fields here and I can use them in my code. What I do here is I say for item in input all, JSON new field is 1. So this would take the data, return it as it is, but add a new field. But I can also do something else. For example, I can say item.json.name is equal to item.json.name lower. So that would make my name into lowercase, as you can see. So we can use Python code to take in the input and produce some other output. But that's not what we're going to do here in this example. I'm going to delete this again. What we're going to do now is we're going to take this data and append it to an existing Google Sheet. So as you can see up here, I have this n8n sheet, this Google Sheet, and it contains two sheets. It has sheet 1 and beta signups, which is what we're going to use now. We're going to use the first one later. And what we have here is username, email, reason, and we have Mike at mike.mike, and test. Now what I want to happen is when I submit the form, I want a new row to be appended to this table so that the data of the sign up is now in my Google Sheet. In terms of n8n, this process is quite simple, but we still need to go through the Google process as well. So we need to go to console.cloud.google.com. You need to log into your Google account, and then you want to create a new project. Now in this case, I already have here an n8n project, but I'm going to go through the process with you from scratch. So I'm going to create here a new project and I'm going to call this n8n tutorial project. I'm going to connect it to my billing account. I'm going to create this. Now, once the project is created, I'm going to select it. And then we're going to go to the Google Sheets API. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to enable it. And now what we need to do in order to use the Sheets API in n8n actually is we need to set up credentials. So in n8n, if I create a new node and I look for sheets and I say I want to have a node that appends a row in a sheet, it's going to ask me for credentials to connect with. Now, in my case, I already have some because I played around with it, but we're going to create new ones now. So I have the choice between OAuth 2, which is recommended, and service account. So we're going to go with OAuth 2. And for this, n8n provides me with a redirect URL. So I'm going to copy this one. And down here, we need to enter the client ID and the client secret from Google Sheets or from the Google console. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go to APIs and services. If you're not here already, you can go to the navigation menu, APIs and services, and then credentials. The first time you do that, you have to set up an OAuth consent screen. So you want to go here and you want to create a new screen. So you're going to go get started. App name is going to be n8n app tutorial, whatever. I'm going to provide my email here as support. I'm going to say external. I'm going to provide my email again. Next. I agree, continue, create. That's that. Now let's go to data access. Here we need to provide scopes. So I'm going to say add or remove scopes. I'm going to look for sheets and I'm going to just enable everything that has to do with Google Sheets. I'm going to save. And then I think I need to also add myself as a test user to be able to use that. So add users and my email again. Save. And now we can go and create a client. So I'm going to go to clients here and I'm going to say create client, application type is web application. Let's call this n8n client tutorial. And here now we need to provide the redirect URL. So I'm going to paste what we copied from n8n. I'm going to create. And as a result, I get the client ID and the client secret. Of course, keep these secret. You don't want to show them to people. I'm going to censor this out or delete the account, one of the two. And here now we paste the client ID, and down there we paste the client secret. That's basically it. The final action is to go down and click this sign in with Google button. This is going to open up a window. It's going to ask me to log in with my account. I'm going to pick the one that is added as a test user. So n8n, and then I can go here to continue. I can select all of these. I can say continue, and now the connection is successful, and I authenticated myself here with the Google Sheets node in n8n. So now we can close that, and we have to decide, okay, what exactly do we want to do? We want to use a resource, which is a sheet within a document. We want to append a row to that sheet. And the document that we're interested in, here we can click on choose. Okay, actually, we can see that we need to use the Google Drive API as well. So let's go back here. Let's go to Drive. Let's enable this API as well. And I'm not entirely sure if we also need to provide the permissions here. No, okay, that's enough. So you just enable the Google Drive API, and then you select the sheet that you're interested in. In our case here, the n8n sheet, which is maybe not the best name. Maybe I should have called it n8n document or whatever. But in this document, we have sheets, so I can click on this as well, and I can choose the beta signups. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to map each column manually. So I'm going to say that the username will get the value of name. Now, I don't need to do anything fancy here. I don't need to type anything. I can just drag and drop this into here. Name is going to be username. As you can see, I can also do it here with json.name. I can also use JavaScript functions to modify this. So if you want to provide some JavaScript code, you can do that here. But we're just going to drag them in here. So name, email, and reason. And that's basically it. If I execute this now, it's going to take the information. It's going to do that. And if I look into the sheet, there you go. We have Florian, whatever, at mail.com because I want to. So this means in my n8n workflow, when I submit this form, it's going to add a new entry to the Google Sheet. So let us exit full screen here. Let's put this into a separate window. Let's zoom out a little bit, zoom out a little bit here as well. Now execute workflow. This is going to open up this form. And now let's go with test user, test at mail.test, whatever, and ABC. When I submit this now, this is going to trigger the workflow, and we're going to add the row to the Google Sheet. Awesome. So what we want to do next is another integration. I would like to get a message on Telegram from a bot that tells me that a new user signed up to the list. So for this here, I'm going to create a new node. I'm going to say Telegram, and it's going to be send a message here. So send a text message. Now, once again, we need to provide credentials so that we can connect with Telegram. I already have it, but I'm going to do it here from scratch again. Create new credential. And here we just need an access token. So how do we get this access token? Now here again, I'm censoring out my chats, but what you want to do is you want to search for something called BotFather. So BotFather is a bot that you can use to create other bots. Then you can click on it and it's going to open up the chat with the BotFather. Now, the first time you use this, you're only going to get the info message. You need to start a conversation with the bot by clicking or by typing /start. Then it's going to tell you what you can do. In my case, I've already created some bots here. But essentially what you do is you say /new bot, and this is allowing you to create a new bot. So I provide this command now, and now it tells me choose a name for this bot. So let's say n8n tutorial test bot. I hope this name is not taken. There you go. Good. Now let's choose a username for your bot. It must end in bot. Now I'm going to go with the same one, n8n tutorial test bot. Okay, it's already taken. So let's go with test bot. Actually, I cannot edit the message. I have to type it again. Test bot. There you go. And since the name is not taken, I can now use this. And what happens is I get a token to access the HTTP API. So I can just copy this token and paste it to n8n. Then I can save that. And this is a successfully created credential. But that is not enough, because what I need to do now is I need to instruct the bot who to send this message to, and we're going to do that by adding the bot to a chat. So here, as you can see, I have resource, message, send message, and I need to provide a chat ID. So I need to have this bot in a chat with me, and it needs to know that it has to send this to the chat ID. So the first thing we do is we click on the link that gets us to the bot, t.me/n8n tutorial test bot, and now I have to start a conversation with this bot. So I click on start here as well, and now I have my bot in a conversation. It doesn't do anything, but what I want to do next is I want to create a group and add the bot to the group. So I click on this button down here and I say new group, and then I have to add the bot n8n tutorial test bot or test bot, and then I select it and I go and create the group. So now we have a group with this bot. Now, the interesting thing is I cannot just retrieve the chat ID. So what I have to do is I have to add another bot to the group to get the ID. This bot is called the get IDs bot. So you need to start a conversation with it to have it in your contacts. And then you want to go to the group you just created. You want to click on it and you want to add a member. So I think my camera is hiding it, but there's a button down here which allows you to add a member, and I'm going to add here the get ID spot. We add it, and now it tells me here this is the ID of the chat. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go back to n8n and provide this as a chat ID. And the text is going to be new user signed up, name is username. I can add it here as well, and email is whatever. And I can, again, do whatever I want with that. I can use some code here, but that should be what happens. So if I execute this and everything worked correctly, this is executed, and in the group I get the message, new user signed up, name is test user, and email is test@mail.test. Cool. So let's try all of this again. I'm going to exit full screen. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this. And now I'm going to start with a form submission. Maybe let me also add this here as a separate window. I'm going to put it down here. I'm going to hide the sidebar. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to click here and I'm going to say this is going to be John at john.john, ABCDEF. Submit. So what happens now? New row is created in Sheets, new message is sent to Telegram. This is what n8n is all about, integrating multiple tools and building workflows. If I may for a second, I would like to plug myself in as the sponsor of my own video. If you go to my website, n8n.com, you will find a tab services and a tab tutoring. Here you can hire me for all sorts of stuff like data science, machine learning, web development. If you need help with something in a project, here you can book me for one-on-one tutoring if you want me to teach you personally something that you don't understand. If you like my teaching style, on both pages at the bottom, you can contact me via mail and also via LinkedIn. Just wanted to let you know about this. So let us now take a look at a different kind of workflow. We're going to create a different trigger, which is going to be a chat message sent within n8n. So the idea is I can do test chat here. I can say hello world, and this is going to produce an output in this node, which is a JSON object with chat input being hello world. Now we can take this message and feed it into a large language model to get a response. For example, I can go here, AI, OpenAI message a model. Now I'm going to use my existing OpenAI account. All you need to do if you want to connect your account is create a new credential and provide the API key. For this, you would go to platform.openai.com/API keys, create new secret key, and then you would copy it. But as I said, I already have this. So I'm going to choose to message a model. I'm going to choose the model GPT-5. So I'm going to scroll down here, GPT-5. And the prompt to this model is going to be the chat input from the previous node. So if I execute this step, it's going to take hello world, feed it into GPT-5 and produce this output here. Hello, how can I help you today? Now we're going to do something more interesting. What we're going to do is we're going to take the message and we're going to create a calendar entry based on the message. So the large language model will have to create a structured output, a JSON object that represents starting time, end time, title, and description for an event, and then it's going to be added to Google Calendar. However, the adding is not going to happen via tool use, so it's not going to be the large language model that creates our calendar event. We're just going to create a structured JSON object, and then we're going to create the event with n8n. So to be precise, the message is going to look like this. Based on the user message, figure out what the calendar entry should look like and return a JSON object with start, end, title, and description. And then we're just going to drag and drop the chat input down here. That is going to be our prompt. We're going to scroll down as well and say output content as JSON. And when I execute this now, I mean, in terms of hello world, we're not going to get a very good output, but we can then formulate a message like I have a barber appointment at 4 p.m. tomorrow. So as you can see in this case, it's just title hello world, description hello world. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So let's go back and try to provide a different message. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. I have an appointment at my barber. So this took a bit more time already, but you can see it says 23rd of October. Today is 22nd. That's correct. And it provided also the time here and barber appointment at my barber. Now we want to take this JSON object and create a Google Calendar entry. So I'm going to click on the plus here. I'm going to go and look for calendar. We can see Google Calendar here, and I'm going to choose create an event. Now the credentials here are different from the Sheets credentials. So we need to actually create new credentials for this one with the same key and the same ID is fine, but we do need to change some things in the Google console. So we're going to go to the Google console. We're going to go to the Google Calendar API. You want to enable it. In my case, I already did this here. You will find a button here again, enable. And then we need to go back to the OAuth consent screen. So APIs and services, OAuth consent screen. And in here, we need to add scopes for data access. So we're going to go to data access, add or remove scopes. We're going to look for calendar. We're going to select Google Calendar API. And even though it might be overkill, I'm just gonna give all the access here. Update, scroll down, save. And in case you already lost your client ID and client secret, you can go back to clients. You can go to n8n client tutorial or whatever you called it. And down here, you can add a new secret. So in this case, I just have to copy here using this button. I'm gonna go and create a new credential here, client secret. The ID stays the same. It's up here. And that's basically it. Sign in with Google again, select your account, continue, and there you go. In your case, you probably have to select the checkboxes. I already went through the process once. Cool. So once we have this here, we need to instruct it to create a new event in a calendar. For this, first of all, create or select a calendar. In my case, social@neural9.com. And now we can provide start and end date. So let's remove this and let's also remove this because our start is going to be the start provided by GPT and our end is going to also be the end provided by GPT. Then the title and description are additional fields. So I'm going to go down to summary. This is the title. I'm going to drag and drop the title here and then the description is going to be the description. Cool. So I have my calendar opened up here. I have nothing in here. And now if I say execute step, this should take an action in my calendar. I actually don't see it. So let me refresh this. And there you go, barber appointment. Now the time you will notice is a bit off because of time zones. We could also instruct GPT to provide a different time zone. We could also do it manually here with JavaScript. I'm just going to leave it like this for the sake of simplicity, but it added this with the proper title and also with a proper description. Now, finally, we can also make n8n respond to the chat. So I can go to this chat node here and go to add field, response mode. I can say using response nodes. Then I can close this. I can create here a response node, respond to chat. And I can say successfully created event 4 and then whatever the summary was, dot. And then I can save that. And now we can go through the whole workflow again. Today at 5 p.m. I have wrestling class. And there you go, successfully created event for wrestling class. And in between we had our model output this, we had our calendar create the event. There you go, wrestling class again with the problem of the time zone. But this is how it basically works. Okay, so now let us go and build something a little bit more comprehensive. I have a Google Sheet here. This was sheet 1 of my n8n sheet, where I have some sales that are documented. So I have the date, the sold item, the quantity, and the unit price. Now I want to build a workflow that takes this data, aggregates it, compares my sales today to my sales yesterday, and if the sales today were lower or less than yesterday, I want to get a large language model to explain to me why and send it via Telegram as a report and alert. And if I earned more today compared to yesterday, then I want to get a Telegram message that congratulates me on that. So this is not necessarily the most complex task, but it will require a lot of nodes because we're not just going to do all of this in Python. So we're going to start with a manual trigger. I want to do this on demand. And the first thing we want to do is we want to pull some data from the Google Sheet. So Google Sheets, and then we want to get rows in sheet. We're going to use the credentials we already created. I'm going to go with sheet within document, get rows. The document is going to be again n8n sheet. The sheet this time is going to be sheet 1. And for options, we're going to say output formatting is going to be the values unformatted. So execute step. This is going to give me all of the data as a JSON object like this. Next step is I want to filter. I'm only interested in today and yesterday. So I'm going to say that the date of the item has to be today or yesterday. Now for this, we're actually going to use a JavaScript expression. So I'm going to say here new date, date.now, and then minus basically 1 day to ISO string slice 010. So it's just going to take the date, not the timestamp, which is basically yesterday, and it has to be greater than that. So it has to be after or equal to. So now when I execute this, it's only going to give me the sales of today and yesterday. Next up, I want all of these prices here to be combined into total prices. So quantity and price, I want them to be multiplied so we get a total price. I can do that easily with Python. So we'll go here to core, run code, Python. And now I'm going to say for all items, JSON.total is going to be equal to item.json.quantity with capital Q times item JSON dot, or actually not dot because we have a space in there. So I'm going to use this syntax unit price. And this now gives me a total for every single item. Next step is to aggregate. Now, the aggregate node is actually not really an aggregate node. That is a bit confusing, I think, and actually it's in data transformation, because in order to aggregate in terms of how we aggregate in pandas or something, you actually use the summarize node. As you can see here, sum, count, max across items is the summary node. And here I basically just say sum over total, and we split by date. So then I get the total today and yesterday with the date here. Let me restructure this a bit to save some space. The next thing we're going to do is another Python node where we're going to now take the JSON object and turn it into today and yesterday instead of this structure. So for this, let's go again, core code Python. And now I'm going to copy paste this one to not waste your time. But basically all we're doing here is we're importing datetime as DT. We're saying today is this date, yesterday is this date. Then we also have the strings. And basically we just say if the date is today, then return the object today with the sum total of this day. Otherwise return yesterday with the sum total of that day. So execute this and we get yesterday and today, which now makes it very simple to take this and perform an if statement on it. So we're going to go with flow if, and we're going to say if today is less than yesterday. And now we're going to have two branches. One is going to fire. In this case, today is less than yesterday. So we go to this true state here. Otherwise, we're going to go to the other one. Now, actually, let us handle the false one first, because if we have a success, we just want to send a Telegram message. So I'm going to say here, send a text message to this account. The chat ID is the same as before. So in my case, this here, and we're going to say, great, you sold more today, or let's say you earned more today compared to yesterday. And this should send a message in Telegram. Now here things get a little bit tricky, because what we want to do if we sold less today compared to yesterday is we want to analyze the situation. But if I go into this node here, you can see I only get yesterday and today. I don't get any context information. I don't get any transactions. I don't get any sales. I just get the sum. So what we need to do if I want to analyze all of this is I also need to somehow get back the initial information. For this, we're going to use another Python node. I'm going to go to code here again, Python. I'm going to copy paste this here again. What we do is we access data that we had access to before. So as you can see, this code in Python beta 1 is the last one, but we also have this code in Python beta without the 1. And here we have still the sales information. So what we're going to do is we're going to say node items is equal to that specific node. So code in Python beta, the first one, .all.toPython. Then I have the sales. I get the JSON object for the individual items. Then I list them, and then I add all of this as sales to the JSON object. So when I execute this, what I get here is I get yesterday, today, and then I get the list of sales with all the items and what happened. Now with this output, I can now just attach another OpenAI node here, message a model. Let us go this time with GPT-4o. The analysis is not going to be very complicated. And here I'm going to provide the following prompt. Let me maybe make more space so we can read it. Essentially, it's going to say, look at these sales. Then it's going to take the sales, parse them as a JSON string, summarize why we earned less today with the sum of today compared to yesterday with the sum of yesterday. Keep your answer very concise, just describe the important pattern and formulate it like a message to a user in a chat. Why? Because we're going to send it to Telegram. So if I take all this and execute this, you will see that it tells me you earned less today because only one laptop was sold, while yesterday had higher volume, 3 laptops and 5 monitors sold. That's great. So finally, we're going to take that and send it to Telegram. So Telegram again, send a text message. Chat ID is same as before. And this is now going to be the message. Execute step, and in Telegram I get here, you earned less today because only one laptop was sold, while yesterday had higher volume, 3 laptops and 5 monitors sold. So if I go back to my sheet now and I change this to 10 and I run the entire workflow on demand, what's going to happen? Let's click here, execute workflow. All of this is run and we get here. So now I get the message, great, you earned more today compared to yesterday. If I turn this back to 2, let's say, save this, execute workflow, all of this is going to happen, a message is going to be sent, and I get the analysis again with why I earned less. Now, finally, let me briefly show you how we can use AI agents. For this, let's go with a chat trigger again. We're going to chat with a model, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add not just an AI, but an AI agent. So an AI agent can have multiple things attached to it. One is I can add a model. For example, let's go with an OpenAI model again. I'm going to go with GPT-4o. Then we can also add some memory, for example, simple memory in n8n, which allows us to keep track of what was already talked about. And then we can add tool use. For example, we can add stuff like other workflows that we already have. For example, call n8n workflow tool. I can now say, go and execute this workflow 3 that we just had, which was the one for comparing sales. So I can click on this, and now whenever it thinks that this has to be triggered, it will trigger it. We can also say when it should be triggered. When the user wants to compare sales of today versus yesterday, call this workflow. So now I have it stored here and we can start chatting with the model. Test chat. What are my sales today compared to yesterday? Now I think I actually have to do it outside of testing. So let me send this again. This is going to trigger the agent. Okay, actually 4.0 cannot use tools. So let's switch to 4.1 mini. That should be fine. And let's try again. And there you go. It recognizes it should use that workflow. It executes that workflow and I get a notification on Telegram that I earned less today. And again, the reasoning. So yeah, of course you can take this then as well. I also got the answer here as a result, but we can also continue and do something else with it. So that's basically how you can work with n8n. There's much more to explore, many different integrations with many different ways to authenticate yourself. But you can also take a look here at templates and see how other people are working with n8n. You have workflows that people have created that you can just copy and adjust if you want to. Let's go with this one, for example, use for free. I can just click on it. I can say import template to localhost. And now I have it on my system. Here it instructs me to first do some stuff. I can skip that and just take a look at this template, also with some tutorial and description here. But this is quite complex and you can see that it collects idea and image, then it creates an image with nanobanana, which is an image generation model. Then it generates a video ad script, it generates the video itself, and then also it posts it onto all platforms. This is quite advanced, but you can also explore that if you want to. You can click on the different nodes and see exactly what they're doing. This is how you can also learn how to use n8n. So that's it for this video today. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. Also, if you're interested in personal tutoring or services, check out my website. I have a services and a tutoring tab there where you can book me or hire me for freelancing services or one-on-one tutoring. And of course, besides that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video and bye.